All right. I feel like now I'm like obligated to start it with all right.
You're not. You just.
I know. It's just I'm in my head. I'm in my head.
That's why I did it. It's the subtle manipulation of the downfall of Jared that I ruined by telling you.
No, it's just going to make it worse.
It's just going deeper.
Now every interaction with you, I'll be wondering if you're trying to ruin my life. Watch this. Okay, so this...
Fucking Christ. Why are you like this?
I didn't say all right. I win this time.
I challenge you to start it without a positive affirmation. It feels wrong, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah.
I just feel like there's no... Like, if I just start talking...
Go with a yup. This week on Monsters and Multiclass.
Just a straight up scream.
Welcome to Monsters and Multiclass, your Dungeons & Dragons fix. I'm Kevin Odie.
I'm Jared Mornicle.
And I'm Will Milton.
And we'll be hanging out with you for a while to talk about anything and everything D&D related. This week we're taking a look at the Artificer Cleric Multiclass, Orcs Part 2, and then another segment of Ask Monsters and Multiclass. So pull up and stick around for a while. Nope. It's fine.
It's good enough.
Cue the music. Before we jump into the multi-class, just want to say this episode is sponsored by the new Loot Tables Kickstarter. More info to come after the multi-class segment.
This week, our multi-class is the Artificer Cleric. The Artificer is an arcane trickster with their magic gained from using tools to unlock different arcane knowledge. They haven't figured out all the secrets, though, unlike their wizard counterparts, as they're only half-casters. The requirement to multi-class into an Artificer is 13 in intelligence. And then the other side is the Cleric, which are holy warriors given divine power by the god they devote their lives to. Clerics are full spellcasters with the multi-classing requirements of 13 wisdom. So, first thoughts, take it away, Will.
This is kind of an interesting contrast. You've got the very, very highly intellectual artificers who really do focus on the mechanical world, and then you've got the very spiritual clerics. It doesn't do a lot for me. We've got two obvious ones. There are makers and thinkers in the cleric domains, so there is pairings there. I don't know mechanically, though.
You just don't know.
I don't know. I didn't look at it.
Kevin, your thoughts?
I like this one a lot. I wasn't expecting to as I started diving into it and going through the classes and thinking of stuff. I kept coming up with just cool concepts, ideas I like would want to see played out. The fact they have different spellcasting attributes, intelligence and wisdom, is always a little messy and not ideal, but it's not terrible because that's kind of, I mean, it's two stats.
Right.
They have to worry about. And also then Artificer, well, we'll get into the details later, but I don't think you need to worry about intelligence.
I'm just really happy that we have a multi-class that doesn't require 3 to 4 different attributes. This is the first one in like months now, I swear. So that alone, it's like, oh, only 2? That's easy. From a role-playing side, I feel like there is actually a lot more than just the 2 cleric ones, but you're right, there are 2 very obvious ones, I think, with the knowledge domain and the forge domain clerics, where it's just like, yeah, of course those are going to go with artificers.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Forge clone, bleh. Of course, forge.
One more time, try it again.
Yeah, forge domain fits perfectly. They're the makers, and you could it'll be a really cool way and viable way mechanically to make the magic armor or the magic item creator. They take it from the ground up, from the raw material to the mundane item to infusing it with magic.
Oh yeah, that's actually a really good point. I forgot that the Forge Domain Cleric has that Channel Divinity ability where they can turn 100 gold worth of material into a thing.
Right.
So I could see that being used to, again, move something along throughout the entire process.
Yeah, just speed it up. They kind of have all these things going for them to really be able to quickly create magic items from nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So they could do it relatively cheaply, quickly, and then sell it at full price. And in previous Artificer discussion, we've talked about how it could be cool. They kind of have a campaign built around the party runs a magic item shop, mm-hmm. and the Artificer is creating it. So now you just have the Artificer Forge Cleric is kind of the heart of it, creating it, and then your campaign is going out collecting the ingredients needed to do it, and this fits beautifully with that.
It definitely does. Though I would probably say if that was like the entire campaign setup, I would probably rather somebody who's just an artificer and another one who's just a forge cleric, because then they're like, we're a team who works together to make these. But you could have that one guy who's like, I am literally the brains behind this operation. Because they've very well solidified themselves as the most important person in the party.
Right. Right, and then mechanically with the Forge domain, with really any of the Artificer fits really well. But I particularly like the image of the Forge domain with the Artillerist, because the Forge domain gets the heavy armor. They get the Divine Strike, where their weapon attacks do fire damage. So they're kind of intended to be up in melee. So I like the image of that. The Forge Cleric running around in the heart of battle in their heavy armor and shield, whacking things with a mace and giving support and healing when needed, while they're commanding cannon 60 feet back to just be launching things into the battle.
It has a really strong Warcraft Warhammer vibe to it.
Yeah.
Fantasy dwarves and cannons are just, they really mix well together. So.
Yeah, in my image, it's a dwarf.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, though the stats aren't the greatest. Well, I guess it's strength, right?
Strength.
I'm just blanking on what dwarves get.
Con.
Strength and con.
Okay.
Yeah, but you know,
I mean, yeah.
helps them. I mean,
It's
they
still-
need
it's good,
those.
yeah.
And if they want to go with heavy armor, they need at least 15 strength.
Right.
The other thing is there is that dwarf that you don't need to get your strength up to that to wear heavy
You're
armor.
right.
Which
That's
is
a very
probably
good
the
point.
biggest reason it's chosen for this
Right.
class.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
For sure. And then also you could, with the Forge domain, free up some of your infusions, because they can make a piece of armor or weapon magical +1. And also then add, it's pretty far into level 6, they also just get +1 AC when wearing heavy armor anyways. And so there's those fusions where that's exactly what they do. And it kind of seems like it's kind of a boring pick, but it's pretty solid. We should probably do that. This could free them up, or you could give it to other people.
Right. Right. And I think that's more the important bit, is that as the Artificer we've talked about before, where usually you're better off giving other people the bonuses. But with the Forge Cleric, you can give yourself the bonus, and then you're still free to give 2 others to the party members who need it. Or once again, free it up for that bag of holding infusion or whatever. I think the biggest downside to this multiclass, and just something with Artificers as a whole, is that the first couple of levels are not too great to go into. And I could see it being very difficult if you're going the path of Cleric to stop and break up your full spell casting just to go into a half caster that doesn't get any spells that you don't already get. I mean, really, a lot of the Cleric spells, honestly, I think they have one of the best spell lists in the game. And now you're going into Artificer, and are they really adding anything that you didn't already have when it comes to the spell casting?
Right.
No, you're just delaying yourself there. At first level, you get basically nothing. It's just like you can tinker with a rock and make it make wave sounds. Okay. Second level, you get the infusions.
Which is good.
It is.
You want to at least go 2 levels.
Right. So, I mean, that's at least good. But even just, I find a lot of times when you are actually putting together a multi-class, the idea of an entire level being basically nothing and meaningless can be very, very hard to actually go through with.
In progress, yeah. That's like, it feels like a huge friggin' waste. Yeah, if you're building something to bring to a table, I think that's a much more viable option for
Right.
bringing an Artificer in.
Right. Like, hey, I'm already, we're starting at level 4. I'm already 2 Artificer, 2 Cleric. Okay, you're fine. And you're not going to feel like you're lagging behind. Whichever you take next is going to be a big power increase. You're going to get, what is that, at 3rd level for a Cleric, you get 2nd level spells. So that'll be good. So everybody else is getting 2nd attack. You're getting 2nd level spells. But you also have your infusions to, start your support aspects there. So you definitely can. I just will say that it's just very hard to, if you're like level 7 and it's like, okay, do I go with my ability score increase and getting closer to my 5th level spells, or I guess at 9th level you get 4th. Wait, what level do you get 5th? 5th, okay.
Those are hard to pass off.
Those are hard to pass
I remember when Saucy got 5th level spells, it was like, damn, that's just out of control good.
Right. So instead you're like, oh, I'm going to go into a 1st level of Artificer. It's like, it's going to suck. And then next level, you're still going to have to just take the Artificer infusions. And then 3rd level, you get some actual, usefulness, because then you can go into the subclass. The artillerist gets you the turret, which is great.
that's the brutality. Like, you gotta go 3rd level artificer. You're just not getting it.
Yeah, I agree. 1 and 2 level dip. Not a whole lot.
Yeah, it's not
3rd level.
2nd level's not bad. It's just it's okay at earlier levels. It's actually really strong at earlier levels, because giving giving 2 people a +1 weapon or +1 armor is really good.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty strong for 2nd level. But at 8th level, is it game changing? No, not really.
Right. Yeah, that's why you go to 3rd and then go like artillerist, and you get your cannons, and you get 1 free cannon a day, and then you spend a spell slot to get others going forward, which, since you're a cleric, you have a lot of. And then you pretty much get per battle a free 2d8 bonus damage a round.
Right.
It is a spell attack though, so your intelligence does matter there.
Oh, okay.
And it is also a bonus action.
So that part does kind of suck, because usually a cleric would be expected to cast spiritual weapon, which is then going to occupy their bonus action unless they need to do a healing word or something. So the benefit, as you said, is you get these turrets, which at first don't cost a spell slot, but it does take an action to set those up. So on a turn, you have to use an action to make the turrets, and then they last for an hour. Or they get destroyed, and then you have to spend a spell slot to get another one of them. Compared to spiritual weapon, 2nd level spell slot, but is only a bonus action and does less damage. They both fit that exact same role. I think, honestly, the turrets do win out because they do more damage. They're can last multiple battles officially. I mean, an hour is a long time, where you might have all of yours in one specific fight. In 1 hour. So that's
right. And it's more versatile. It's a ranged attack as opposed to a melee.
Definitely.
And I just love the flavor of it.
That too.
It's really
seriously.
I'm just thinking about it more and more. It's like, that's so cool.
Yeah, the forged dwarf cleric. I'm picturing like golden armor, like running through, smacking things as they light on fire. Yeah, it's like these force balisters are just lobbing magical shots into the battlefield, knocking people around.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's super cool and a lot better. And it is better than the spiritual weapon. It's comparable. So I say that to the extent that you have to gimp yourself on holding back your next spell levels and spell slots for a full caster, it can be a little difficult. Like you just gotta take your lumps, I guess, with the multi-class. Hopefully, you're starting at a level that you don't have to have those moments where you're back too far, and then once you do get the artillery, it's like, okay, I'm there. I'm doing just as much damage and what I need to.
Right. Another useful thing for clerics, you'd have to go 6 levels into alchemist, but if you get the homunculus, the homunculus allows you to cast touch spells through it, which is great as a cleric.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, though it is competing with 1 level dip into wizard to get find familiar, or magic initiate to get find familiar, which allows you to do the same thing. But the homunculus is just a lot hardier. The find familiar it has 1 health, so if it's hit, it's dead. Mm-hmm. Where the homunculus is
a little bit more. I don't remember the specifics. It's like your artificer level,
constitution mod plus intelligence mod plus your level in the class.
Okay.
So yeah.
I think we determined that it's probably going to be at 6th level, even 1 hit to kill this thing. But you got a better chance than with the Find Familiar. I don't remember what its armor class is, but it's
13.
definitely higher than most familiars. Usually familiars are like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think as a whole, the homunculus just isn't too great, but flavor-wise, that's pretty cool. And I think the Forge Cleric, though, the artillerist idea is super cool. There's no reason you can't go with the Battlesmith either, which puts potentially more importance on the intelligence, or maybe it just makes it more worthwhile to go for, because you can replace your weapon attack bonus with intelligence instead of strength or dex. So that can definitely have some payoff, and you can't cast spells through your Robo-Dog. I don't remember the name of it. Steel Defender. But it still is a very, very good for support. Yeah. Which the Cleric generally has a very support feel to them. So you can either get the boisterous one type of Forge Cleric Dwarf who's, yelling for the cannons, or the other, whatever, again, Forge Cleric or even any other Cleric domain, meshing with that Steel Defender, though, to offer more support to the party, I think is pretty cool, and I like the idea of that as well.
I think looking at it, it makes a decent amount of sense to dip into Cleric for almost anybody, and definitely for the Artificer. Because you get a lot of front-loaded shit. And, we're talking about the Forge domain, but the one level dip to get your plate armor is kind of worth it. Plus Blessing of the Forge. I mean, that's level, and it's
totally
great.
agree.
You can focus Artificer and now have heavy armor, and now have your +1 give up thing so you can have more of these invocations. That's like a really solid dip.
It is, yeah.
You even get, Channel Divinity doesn't come until 2nd level.
Yeah.
But still, and then you're also not just, you are progressing your spellcasting more than you are regressing it like Cleric into Artificer. So, you take 1 level and now you're getting a full spellcaster level, as well as a wide berth of 1st level Cleric spells, which isn't going to be like overwhelming or game changing by any means, but maybe you weren't going the Alchemist one and you can now get Healing Word. That's great spell.
Bless,
really good.
Toll the Dead.
Toll the Dead.
The hell up, Kevin.
No, so I think, from a mechanical standpoint, you are very well within your rights as an Artificer to dip into Cleric. It just makes a lot of sense, even at 1st level. Any of the ones that give you the heavy armor are going to be good choices. But even, any other ones also are pretty good. The knowledge domain gets you a good bit of, I think, just proficiencies. And an Artificer does give off, this is less in a combat role, but if you are trying to be the Artificer who does have that desire to learn and know everything, why wouldn't a god of knowledge come down and say like, hey, work for me, and we're gonna get through this, bud.
I'm just picturing like the Artificer frustratedly working on something, and the guy just behind him like, "Hey, you're doing that wrong." It's like, "What the fuck do you know?" It's like, "Oh, I'm the god of knowledge, so I can give you a hint."
Right.
And Toll the Dead, you just
So I really like the idea of that. A dip out of Artificer into Cleric. Knowledge domain makes a ton of sense. You get, I think, 3 skill proficiencies and another, maybe a tool proficiency, but you get just a bunch of things like that. And then once you get your Channel Divinity, you get the Knowledge of Ages, which lets you just gain proficiency in a skill or tool if you take for the next 10 minutes. That's so fitting with an Artificer. And I was wrong. Blessings of Knowledge is the 1st level knowledge domain ability, and you learn 2 languages and you become proficient in 2 of the following skills: Arcana, History, Nature, or Religion, and your proficiency bonus is doubled for any ability check you use that makes either of those, or that uses either of those skills. So just once again, just making you a bit of a skill monkey.
It's interesting though. Those are intelligence, and that's where it kind of burns you. Is like, oh, well, I don't have a high intelligence, but as an Artificer, you would.
Right. Or at least, at least 13, right? But
interesting.
Probably higher. I think going any further than that, at least for the knowledge domain reasons, not going to do too much for you. 6th level, you can read a creature's thoughts with your Channel Divinity. It's nothing too special. And then at 8th level, this one's kind of interesting because at 8th level, Clerics get always this like same type of thing where they can add their Wisdom modifier to, or I guess a D8. Is it the other one? Yeah, they can add either a D8 or their Wisdom modifier to a cantrip or a weapon attack. So that one's kind of interesting because I think the Artificers at 5th level also get something where they can add to their spells. Like Alchemists can add their Intelligence modifier to any healing they do or any damage they do that's like poison or whatever. Artillerist gets it for fire damage and a couple of others. But those 2 do not overlap and can't overlap, which is a bit of a bummer because the Artificers specifically says that it needs to be cast with the tool as the focus, and then the Clerics say it has to be a Cleric spell.
Right.
So you have to do like one or the other. So I think that's one where I initially saw it and I was like, oh, cool. At 13th level, you're getting an extra D8 and you're adding your Intelligence modifier. No, it doesn't work out actually.
Yeah, one or the other. Depending on what type of spell you're casting.
Right.
Yeah. Backing up real quick on read thoughts, you said nothing special. I really disagree with that.
Okay.
Not in combat. But so I mean you could read thoughts, and if you're, as long as you're not just doing just like a generic dungeon crawl of 0 role playing or social encounters, that's going to be useful. And then if you are successful with it, you could cast the suggestion spell. You could end it and cast the suggestion spell on the creature without expending a spell slot, and it automatically fails its save.
That's a good point, actually.
So that's actually really useful.
Yeah, that is pretty good. That is pretty good. And then, you know, again, if you're going up at those cleric levels, then you're getting tons of spells. Spell slots for days.
Yeah.
That can be used on all of your artificer junk. You know, if you want to be the alchemist who just makes tons and tons of those potions, which is probably not a good idea, but you can do. You can always take those levels into cleric, and now every single level you go into it, you're just getting more of those potions.
Right.
Hooray! Potions, random potions.
Well, no, if you're spending
I
the
know.
spell, yeah.
If you're spending the spell, you can choose it.
But you don't have to, do you?
You don't have to choose it. You
Yeah,
could
the
just-
chaos character?
Yeah,
Where,
chaos character would work.
Nothing you do is decided by you.
Well, that's what I was thinking of. Another one of these things is if you did like a, I don't know if I think probably the alchemist and the grave domain would make like a Dr. Frankenstein type character.
That was what I was thinking.
Because we did talk about the alchemist being like the kind of crazy scientist and just the person who's basically now an absolute lunatic, but in charge of deciding when and how people die, basically. Could be pretty cool. And that did have some interesting mechanical overlap because the grave domain has the circle of mortality. And that says when you would normally roll 1 or more dice to restore hit points with a spell to a creature at 0 HP, you instead use the highest number possible for each die. So that does cross over with the alchemist's ability to add their intelligence modifier to health given, like when healing
Right.
somebody. So it's kind of a specific scenario where this comes up, but I like that those two do actually have some synergy, so that if you're casting Healing Word on somebody who went down, you're giving them the max, so 1d4, plus your Wisdom modifier, because it's a cleric spell, plus your intelligence. Oh, I'm sorry, actually. No, it has to be the Artificer spell, because the Chemical
bonus.
Savant
Yeah.
requires you to use your tools, but the Alchemist gets Healing Word already. So they can do this. And again, gives 1d4 plus their intelligence modifier twice, basically. It's no life cleric level of healing, but it's pretty cool. Good way to get somebody up. If you're
Right.
at 20 intelligence, you can use a Healing Word on somebody who's down and get them up to 14 HP, or cast it at a higher level. In each one, it's just an additional, four health. Which is nothing too crazy, but it's cool.
Right.
But more than anything, I like the flavor of those two.
Yeah. I like Tempest Domain with Battlesmith. Just because the Tempest Domain's about harnessing lightning and power storms and all that. And
Right.
then, I mean, the
Your dog has a taser.
yeah. And also, I could see kind of flavoring. That's how you imbue it with life. The Steel Defender by, you put electricity in it.
It's still more of that Dr. Frankenstein
Yeah,
idea.
yeah,
But no,
exactly, yeah.
I think that's totally fine. The Artificer gives you a bunch of room to work in that crazy scientist idea.
Right. And the Tempest Domain gets their heavy armor. And then if they're doing any sort of thunder damage, they can max it as the channel divinity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so when you roll lightning or thunder damage, you use your channel divinity to maximum damage instead of rolling. Would that apply with the Steel Defender or Battlesmith
You
stuff?
are technically rolling the damage.
I think it would. Arcane Jolt. No, that's force damage.
Oh, is that?
Jolt isn't really a great
Right.
Yeah, great way to say
I
that.
hate
but-
this game so friggin' much.
You still also get the Wrath of Storm, though, which is just a really good first level ability from the clerics, which is you can use your reaction to deal 2d8 damage to somebody as long as they fail a dex saving throw
When you get hit, right?
when you get hit, right? And you can use that up to your Wisdom modifier, so it's not going to be a ton of times, but for a first level dip, just being able to do that, you're not
Right.
using a reaction for too much else. So I really like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, I can't think of a reason why you wouldn't want to dip into Cleric if you were an Artificer. It's really good dip.
Yeah.
Like, just one for it. And then, I mean, Artificers do get a lot better as they keep going.
Do they get anything that's just necessary at later levels?
Necessary? No. I mean, because their subclasses start to get to times where you might not get to those levels. Like 15th level is where the artillerist gets their second turret, which is absolutely awesome, but not really necessary or kind of expected to get to. I would say if you are getting up to level 20, I would probably cap myself off at 5th level cleric and then get to 15th level artificer over some other mix.
Yeah, 20's decent.
The Soul of Artifice.
Oh yeah. I think the artificer's 20th level ability is pretty defining. I don't know if I'd...
Wait, +6 to all of your saving throws.
Right, so it's the Soul of Artifice. You get a +1 bonus to all saving throws per magic item you are currently attuned to, which should be 6 by that point. And if you're reduced to 0 but not killed outright, you can use a reaction to end one of your Artificer infusions, causing you to drop to 1 HP instead of 0.
You can do that for multiple times, too.
Right. I think
Say, how many do you have at level 20? Pulling it up. Hold on.
I will say that it is based on a
items.
reaction, though.
6.
So if you get like hit in one turn,
Right.
like, oh, that's going to drop me to 0. I'm going to use my reaction. The DM might be like just like when an orc goes to they go to 0 and they're like, oh, I'm actually at 1. It's like, cool. It has multi-attack. Stop.
Right.
But, it's still there. And then how many, you said, infusions they'd have at that point?
6.
6? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. Still a lot.
Yeah, that'd be annoying as hell.
But, you're probably not going to get to that. Nobody gets to 20.
No, yeah. It's just like a huge chunk of the game. Why bother?
But I mean, up to that point, at 11th level, they get their spell storing item, which we've talked about a ton before. Just gives you a ton of uses of low level spells or a low level spell.
Right.
Kind of hard to pass up if you're getting close to it. Magic Item Adept is the 10th level. You can attune up to 4 magic items at once. If you craft a magic item with a rarity of common or uncommon, it takes you a quarter of the normal time and it costs you half as much of the usual gold. I'd say that unless you were in the magic item shop campaign, it depends. That one might not be entirely necessary.
Right.
I think the nice thing about a lot of these is it fits really well with the inbuilt progression.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to be able to attune to more items as you get more infusions, as you level up. So it's not like you're dying to have that.
Right.
So it makes sense. You can dip out anytime you want to be fine.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually a really good point. There's not like a thing that's so defining. Even to a smaller extent, look at the any martial classes where 5th level is going to give you multi-attack. If you dip out before then, you are going to notice a drastic power decrease. I think the Artificer lends itself pretty well to dipping out of.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much dipping into, as discussed earlier.
Right.
No, it's pretty terrible. But heavy armor that's just baller. I think that would be a great combination with the Artificer.
You're still stuck on that, the dwarf.
God, he's so cool in my head. And he would use guns because fuck it.
Yeah. It would have been a much better way to take Saucy.
Yeah, but it wasn't there.
Yep. He probably wouldn't have died to that beholder.
No, he would have shot him right in the eye with multiple cannons. And Kevin was like, this is bullshit.
Ooh, would a beholder's gaze turn off the turrets? They're considered magical, aren't they?
Yeah,
Probably.
shut down all your shit.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Oh, that'd be the worst. It's like an artificer getting looked at by a beholder would be a probably terrible feeling.
Yeah.
All your watch stops working,
Yeah.
your glasses turn off, and you're like, oh fuck. All my magic.
I will say at 6th level, artificers get their 3rd item that they can infuse, and 2 more infusions known. That might be a pretty good jumping off point. Flash of Genius is nice. I like it a lot. That's where you can just you can add your intelligence modifier to an ability check or saving throw equal to number of times equal to your intelligence modifier. So that one's really nice. I could see foregoing that or at least delaying getting that Flash of Genius in order to pursue a different class.
Mm-hmm. Can you think of any neat or unique role-playing reasons?
Yeah, the dwarf Kano thing.
I can't think of any bad ones is more the issue.
Yeah.
It's like nothing is like particularly jumping out. We've mentioned a couple already. I do like the idea of like the grave domain and the alchemist one where I think tying in the god portion of it might be a little bit tough. But
Yeah.
grave domain as a whole is just a bit of a weird one. Just hey, it's my job to lead people on into the next life. So, great, that's what you got. I also do it with potions. Cool. All right, that's something.
Yeah, that's my hang up. I think especially the Cleric to Artificer is not, it doesn't really do much for me. And it doesn't, I'm struggling to think of why would they pursue this.
I mean, we mentioned this, I think, in the Ranger Artificer, where Artificer is just kind of something that there's no reason you couldn't pick it up. If your character was like, I just want to I'm interested in this thing. I'm interested in tinkering with the arcane in a way that I, understand and unlock its secrets. So a lot of clerics might not really fit that. Nature Domain, for example.
Nature Domain. I think even
bother.
Life Domain is like,
yeah,
it's one of those great examples where you're not going to learn anything from, taking apart watches or whatever.
Right.
You already have God on your side.
No, I think that's fair. So for the Knowledge Domain and Forge Domain, I think you're well within your rights. Arcana Domain, also well within your rights to go into Artificer. Otherwise, it's a little bit weird. This definitely fits much better as a god who understands that the Artificer could be used to help them than the other way around, where the cleric thinks that tinkering is going to help their god.
Yeah, I can see a lot of gods saying, no.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, you put that watch down.
This is not a book learning church. This is just believe me church.
Yeah, I mean, the Arcana Domain, I don't think that's a really great cleric domain as it is.
That one's goofy. Yeah.
But it's pretty fitting. But at first level, you gain proficiency in the Arcana skill and 2 cantrips of your choice from the wizard spell list, and they count as cleric cantrips. I don't really think that's too worth it. Honestly,
now that we have Toll of the Dead, no.
Right. I honestly think that's probably one of the worst first levels of cleric, because that is just pretty darn worthless. Even their channel divinity, it's not bad, but it's basically like a powered up normal turn undead. It just works on celestial elementals, fae, or fiends.
Right.
Campaign specific, kind of.
Very much. And as it gets higher, it's not a you kill them, it's a you banish them for a turn.
Right. Not a turn.
A
minute. It actually works just like banishment.
Okay.
It specifically says as in the banishment spell. So I believe that means that they are gone if you banish them.
If you concentrate for the minute.
No concentration required. So they are just automatically gone if they are on a different plane.
Okay.
So it is actually pretty good. But again, campaign specific.
You know what this actually kind of fits with? Almost like a Lovecraftian monster hunter who's getting rid of like otherworldly stuff.
Okay.
That expands it in a way that's interesting.
Yeah, no, I'll give you that.
It's just not very good.
But counter argument to that is that cleric by itself gets enough spell casting and just things out of their normal cleric progression, mostly spell casting, to be worth it to go into with that alone. So yes, it's probably better to go Tempest and get your heavy armor, but maybe you don't care about heavy armor. You don't want to worry about strength. You don't want to play a dwarf, which, a lot of people don't want to do all of those specific things. I could see going into it, again, to fit that character concept. And, you're not going to feel like you're so far behind.
Yeah, you're right. It's just always a good dip.
Literally always.
Every single class should just do it.
Trickery Domain?
Nope.
I couldn't really think of anything too interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a hard one, the Trickery Domain. I feel like we've only had a good one for like Rogue Cleric, and that was just obvious, But beyond that, no, I wouldn't go into that.
Other than that, you've got the other mediocrity that is War Domain.
Yeah.
Which doesn't not make sense. It just doesn't make sense to do. You get your heavy armor.
Yeah.
But that's it. And if you're just going for heavy armor, then just go for Forge Domain.
It's just a better subclass. It's I really like that subclass. I always pick the best subclasses for myself.
Then the other one, you mentioned that Life Domain you think doesn't make too much sense.
Flavor-wise, yeah.
Right. I do see the Battlesmith fitting into a Life Domain. going from the Artificer to Life Domain, though, where they, because I've said this before, they really have like a combat medic feel to them. And mixing in that Life Domain could make a lot of sense where, they have a traumatic incident where they can't save somebody and they're like, oh, if only I could get more healing power. Well, Life Domain God comes down and says, hey, I can get you more healing power.
I'm sure he's used to that call a lot.
Right.
Oh, I want to heal better. It's like, oh, buddy, wait a sec. I got something.
Right.
Look at all this crap. You just like heal for days.
So
Or the other way around. A already Life Domain that fails to heal someone. It's like, oh, if only I had a mechanical steel dog.
Just immediately starts drawing it. It would look exactly like this. If only that was an option.
Why the floppy ears? Why not the floppy ears?
I want them to calm people, not alarm them.
No, but it's kind of funny. Like the other way around does sound ridiculous. Going from a Life Domain to that Battlesmith. Why would you? But the Battlesmith lacks in those areas. It doesn't excel in any way. But then the Life Domain comes in, and now they're like, oh, I can do a lot of healing. And I get heavy armor. It's such a good
subclass for the cleric. It's just, if you really want to, nobody's going to stop you from ramming it into your weird class definitions. Especially considering that you'll be healing them, so no one's going to judge you at the table.
So why exactly does your god give you all these healing powers when you just kill people all the time?
Shut up, man. She gets like 40 healing out around. It's insanity.
I really didn't realize how crazy healing the Life Domain could do until we had one. Now that we have a Life Cleric, I'm blown away. It's too much healing. No person should have that much power.
Yeah. I when preparing for this one, I fully read through it just out of the curiosity. Like, all right, have we been screwing something up? Because even with the Life Domain being out there, you still hear people talk about how healing within combat is not worthwhile and clerics should not focus on healing and it's just a waste. And that's the complete opposite of what we've been experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it really boosts up healing to a viable level.
Yeah. It's fun. It's actually, it's brought a new play style to the table, which is, I like.
Just people dying and then not being dead anymore.
No, people not dying.
Yeah.
It's not yo-yoing. There hasn't been any of that, like, you're down and now you're up. You're down, now you're up. It's like, oh, you're low? No, you're not. You're back up. You get the fuck back in there.
And the nice thing is when we do go down, you can bring them back up and not have them in the yo-yo
Exactly.
situation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the healing's gotten enough where it's... You could survive 2 hits.
Right.
Which is, enough to get out of there.
Mm-hmm. So that's been really fun.
Yeah.
So, I could see a reason that a Battlesmith would go towards that. And gets a lot just out of some quick dips. Up to 2nd level, great. You've got some pretty good healing that you can throw down. Up to 6th level, now you're healing yourself a little bit, and you've got tons and tons of spells. And the Channel Divinity just gets better and better every single level. Which
Cleric level?
Every cleric level, yes. Okay. Which not many do. I mean, even looking at the Tempest Domain one, which is just you max your damage for thunder and lightning damage. That's it. Now that's good, and as you're casting higher level spells, it's getting better. So there's still that. But that one is one of the only Channel Divinities that I can think of that just increases every single level. It's 5 HP every single time for the cleric. It's really nice for the Life Domain.
So did we come up with a strategy? Do they have anything, the Artificer, that would allow them to wear heavy armor without getting that strength that isn't dwarf-based?
There's a magic item. There's like boots of stringing and spriting.
Does that let you do that?
Yeah. Because that's one of the things that you guys currently have as a quest reward to pick up.
Oh man, we're all going to have to play it. We got the money.
Only one person can wear them. I don't think...
What if you wear 1 boot each?
Then you can wear medium armor. Oh, fuck. I don't believe that's one of the weapon or the items that they can replicate, though. Boots of speed? Nope, that's not springing and striding. They can actually. At 10th level, they can make boots of striding and springing. Sorry, I mixed it up. So at 10th level, an Artificer can give themselves heavy armor even if they're not proficient. Or at least they ignore all of the negative aspects of not being proficient in heavy armor.
Well, no. Proficient or the strength
requirement? The strength requirement.
The strength requirement and it says that you don't get your speed reduced.
That's the strength requirement.
Yeah.
Correct. Do you need to be proficient in it then to even just like put it on?
No, I mean, you can just turtle up. You just can't do shit.
Right. Like I know, like you can't cast spells. I think all attacks are at disadvantage.
You're right. Yep.
I
No, you're definitely right about the
on
spells
that,
thing.
yeah.
At the very least.
That'd be just so dumb. It's like, oh, you can't wear plate armor. Why? I'm not proficient in it. So what happens when you put it on? It just bursts off your body. No, yeah. Speed's killed, and you basically can't perform as a combat person.
Right.
That's why it's great for the turtle strategy.
Okay, so if you do find a way to get that heavy armor proficiency, which we just gave a bunch of great ways to do, by level 11, you can make your own boots of striding and springing.
And that solves
And
the
have
issue of now it's just intelligence and wisdom.
Right.
As opposed to intelligence, wisdom, and strength, which
Right.
is a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's really easy to justify for an artificer to be wise. I know it sounds like we haven't talked about that at all, but it's not like that's counterintuitive to an artificer. They'd be wise and smart.
Especially if they go cleric.
So yeah, the armor blah. So the armor proficiency, if you wear something you're not proficient in, you have disadvantage on any ability checks, saving throws, or attack rolls that involve strength or dexterity, and you can't cast spells.
That involves strength or dexterity. It makes a lot more sense. I thought it was going to be like, if you put on medium armor, you're not proficiency, you will get disadvantaged on all your history checks.
So
Okay.
could like a hexblade using charisma, or the artificer battlesmith using intelligence.
What I'm thinking is because what they said is using strength or dexterity, and you were replacing strength or dexterity. I don't know. It kind of just
To me, that's one of those where I think raw, it just shouldn't give you disadvantage, but like rules as intended probably should.
Yeah.
Well, we just
Or like
broke the game.
shillelagh, yeah.
Artificer broke the game. I knew it.
Shillelagh monk to get rid of the speed bonus. I got this. Just to wear heavy armor. Not like there's 50 different ways to get that. Good to know, though. So that's your path out of being a dwarf is the boots of striding and springing.
That's a long wait to get there.
And all that does is help with the speed.
What is that? Is that
Isn't it just a 10-foot penalty?
Correct. Yeah, it's a 10-foot penalty if you don't have the strength requirement. Which, honestly, you might not care about.
Yes, it's not that terrible.
yeah, if you're an elf, what elf?
35. They get 35. So then
That's
you reduce
dwarf
it by 10.
speed.
Exactly.
Which was incredibly frustrating.
It was crazy and out of the abyss with your dwarf. How many times you needed just 5 more feet?
It was just nuts. I'm convinced Kevin did that on purpose.
If so, kudos. Because
Kevin the dwarf hater.
He should have his speed feel like a limiting factor. I think that it's also a thing that happens with monks is once you do get like, I've got 50 speed. It's like, what can I do with this? A lot. Like you don't realize how often it's just nice to be able to move 50 feet.
Yeah. Or my current character is a tabaxi who has feline agility. So you could double your movement speed once per taking a turn of not moving.
Yeah, I hate that.
It comes up a lot.
I really feel like that should be limited to a short or long rest, but who am I to judge? I didn't do tons and tons of playtesting, and obviously Wizards of the Coast didn't either.
I don't know if they play tested that one. I don't know very much.
But yeah, it's very nice when you can just move 60 feet and then another 60
And especially
feet when
then
you
as
dash.
a rogue. Yeah, and then dash is a bonus action, so I can move 120 feet. That's still my whole action.
Next campaign, that's getting gimped to short and long rests only. Which is probably about how often you use it, to be honest. It's not like you use it every other turn.
Right.
It really doesn't come up unless you always have it. Like a monk.
Right. But 120 feet in one turn is really, really far. It's like, obviously, but you just don't.
And then if I dash again as my action, it's 180.
It's not even that fast.
It isn't?
As a person, no.
I don't know, man.
Well, this isn't like full armor carrying weapons and stuff. We're not like
It's still not that
like
fast.
on a track in shorts and running shoes.
It's still not that fast, man.
I'm still impressed. I don't think I could do it.
I think, what's the record? 9 seconds for 100 meters?
Yeah,
I'm
but
not sure.
that's meters to feet. How are you supposed to do that math?
I think there's a 3 involved, man. I don't know.
Somewhere.
I've never been to Europe.
Oh, we're really bad at the metric system.
Anyways, any other thoughts on Artificer Cleric?
No, because I don't think that there's any like crazy synergy that's deeper than surface level. But it
Yeah.
is all cool.
Right.
And I think you have tons of opportunities to make a really, really interesting character or diverge from a character if you're getting bored. If you're tired of playing an Artificer and you want to try something else or try throwing in a class, Cleric is a fantastic choice. And you're going to get something out of it for sure.
Right.
Yeah, what we said before. I think this is unidirectional in my personal view. Artificer is just enormously enhanced by a dipping Cleric. So it's pretty good. I like the flavor. I like the dwarf thing.
I think the only other one is you mentioned the Tempest domain. In that same idea, I like the idea of the light domain, just for like the idea of like breathing life into something through fire is kind of a common overlap.
Yeah.
Also, if you mesh that with Artillerist, then you're just getting a fire Artificer, which, I don't know, once again, just kind of a cool imagery, and to me, not much else. But I am just looking over my notes and seeing the Forge domain stuff again, and it's just ridiculous. Heavy armor proficiency, Blessing of the Forge, 3 Cleric cantrips, full spellcaster level, and the Blessings of the Forge God, which is just really cool.
Yeah.
You just have a Forge God who's literally like, yeah, man.
You're blessed.
You're fucking killing it.
Smirking at the DM every time he looks at your AC. Yeah, it's 23.
Didn't help Saucy.
No, because he didn't boost his dex. Rip.
All right, that's all I have for them. Maybe like a good exit for the end of the multi-class.
There's never going to be one.
No.
And that's all for this week's multi-class. Next week's I don't know.
No, that's all right. You're right. It doesn't make sense.
Just play another song, Kevin.
Ooh, good idea. Like something that we don't have the rights to, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like a really popular.
Journey. They're not litigious at all.
Start playing Don't Stop Believing.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's the end of our multi-class.
Just play Don't Stop,
Stop.
and then we stop. And it's like, whoa.
What?
That's
The
crazy.
music said don't stop. But they
These
did
guys must have
anyways.
gone to podcast school or something. Yeah, I majored in podcasting.
Are we still going to use this? Or were we
Yeah,
just...
oh, for sure.
Oh, god damn it. All right. Well, that's the end of our multi-class.
Don't stop. But
No, you just stop on stuff.
But it said don't stop. It's really conflicting.
That's the fucking art.
I understand that when
I
we...
think if we get believe it out, that's when the threshold of getting sued, though. So
Oh,
You can't say don't stop anymore. That was a pretty popular line in a Journey song.
all right, so let's move on into our promotional minute where we're going to talk a little bit about the Loot Tables Kickstarter. So Loot Tables is a company makes handmade dice, some potion vials that you can use for healing potions.
which we have, and it's very satisfying.
Yeah.
Pop the cork off and dump it on the table, and you don't have to remember what each potion is.
Yeah,
It's
I
labeled.
actually really like those. But they are starting a Kickstarter. So I guess I'm gonna back this up a little bit and read the bit that I have. So in our normal fashion, we can't just have a well put together promotion. It's gotta be
Of course
awful.
not.
So this episode is sponsored by Loot Tables, creator of handmade dice, potions, tokens, and other tabletop accessories. Loot Tables is currently running their first Kickstarter for their Dual Vault system, a precision machined dice vault available in several different hardwoods to hold your dice, minis, tokens, or anything else you need. So they are starting a Kickstarter. I believe it's been going at this point for a week, so it should be in its first week. It is for dice vaults, if that wasn't clear from what was just said. They start at $22. They've got a whole bunch of stretch giveaway or stretch goals with giveaways and upgrades for these vaults, and Kickstarter exclusive set of dice with personalized engravings. You know what? I actually might have misspoke there. I think the personalized engravings are on the boxes, not on the dice. So they have Kickstarter dice and personalized engravings on the boxes.
That makes a lot more sense.
It does make a lot more sense. Usually if it was like our stuff, I'd just be like, I just won't say anything more. But no. So they're really cool, not just the products they make, but I have talked with people from Loot Tables before. They're really awesome. And again, we use their health potions because I really like them. And probably going to be checking out these dice holders as well. Upgrade from our current ones. So yeah, go ahead and check them out. And now on to our Monsters of the Week.
Wait.
Oh.
Our bullshit. Follow us on Twitter. We have a subreddit. Review us
All right.
where you can. All right. Now on to our Monster of the Week.
LootTables.com/Kickstarter.
Wait, what? That's not our stuff.
That's not our stuff?
Everybody knows the fucking Twitter, man.
There's a link.
Yeah.
Gotta say the link.
Oh, okay.
http://www.
No, we will post links to those things though. So check our Twitter, check our Reddit, which our Twitter is monsters_multi, which you should go follow, of course. And our subreddit is our monsters and multi-class. And of course, if you would like to support us on Patreon, we have absolutely nothing to offer you besides our support and being awesome at it.
Yeah.
Love when Kevin gives me that look of, Jared, you fucked it up again. Well,
Yeah, the main thing with the Patreon is so, I mean, we've been doing this for over a year without any money. We'll keep doing it.
We've lived on the streets for most of this.
The hope
Sold
is-
our cars.
The ultimate goal is to get these episodes transcribed, which opens it up to a wider listening audience. It is easier for people to peruse it, reference it, and also then just from us, it helps us with our search engine optimization and just being discovered by other people. And it's kind of expensive to transcribe an hour and a half podcast with 3 different people talking. That's our main goal here initially.
so give us money.
This winter's been brutal.
If you could afford it. If not,
If you can
absolutely
afford it.
no
Of
problems.
course.
We understand, of course.
Of course.
Please.
So when I say that we don't have any Patreon tiers, that's because we don't want to split up the community just because somebody has more money than somebody else. It feels weird. So
Yeah. God, we are so bad at being concise.
yeah, for sure.
All right.
But that's why we have a podcast, because we just talk for as
Right.
long as we want, and nobody can stop us. Except for Journey. Journey can stop us. All right, we ready for the monster?
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on into the Orcs Part 2. Orcs.
Zug, zug.
Now we're gonna get sued by Blizzard.
No, I found out that from Reddit of all places that they stole that from that weird movie that was made in the 80s about cavemen. They like made a feature-length film about Neolithic man.
Okay.
And they were all like covered in hair, completely naked, and couldn't speak at all. So, it was one of those films. And they called sexual intercourses Zug Zug.
Oh,
So thank you for illuminating my teen years. Reddit.
All right. This episode's monster is Orcs Part 2. Last episode we did Part 1. We did a real deep dive into the lore and Volos and the monster manual orcs and stuff like that. So if you missed that, go check it out, because we're not really going to repeat it all because it took forever. So now this episode, we are looking to dive into all these stat blocks and Volos, which adds a really interesting twist on the orcs. There's a bunch of different gods in the orc pantheon, and it seems like each god has kind of their own little stat block of an orc worshiper. So we'll dive into that and talk about how to use them and all the cool shit. We'll just start top to bottom here. First one is the Orc Blade of Ilnivel.
hell
There
yeah.
you go. Yeah.
So yeah, this is the battle captains. To I guess relate it back to a fighter, or I'm sorry, a PC class. The battle master fighter would be a good example. They're basically the tactician. You're not going to see a ton of them in a fight, but they are not going to be on the back line either. They rush up with the rest of the orcs, and they can hit just as hard as the other ones, but they have some small tactics here and there to change up how they fight. More importantly, they are stronger than a regular orc, which if you listen to our last episode, you'll know that after a low-level encounter, orcs can get kind of tough to scale up. This is one that can definitely change up the feel of the battle and make it a lot tougher and interesting. So Orc Blade of level, armor class 18, HP of 60, speed of 30. The stat block looks pretty similar to most orcs, of strength of 17, dex 11, con 17, 10 int, which is pretty high for them, wisdom of 12, charisma of 14, get a saving throw for wisdom of +3. They are a challenge rating 4, which I probably should have mentioned that earlier. And they still get the aggressive feature, which as a bonus action, the orc can move up to its speed towards a hostile creature it can see.
Every orc has that.
Every orc has that. Where most orcs have the Fury of Groomsh, this has Foe Smiter of Ilnival. Ilnival? Man, we've said it like 6 times and I still can't get it down.
Orc Blade of
Ilnival.
Thank you. Thank you, D&D Beyond. So this works the exact same though, where they just deal an extra damage die when it hits with its longsword attack. So this doesn't apply to all of their weapon attacks like the Fury of Groomsh does.
Right.
But this is nice because you can get more than a D8, whereas Fury of Groomsh is you just get an additional D8. With the longsword, if you're using 2 hands, you can get an additional D10, which is nice. D10s are great.
Right.
So for their actions, they get multi-attack, 2 melee attacks with its longswords, or 2 with its javelin, and if its Ilnival's command is available for use, it can do that as well. So the attacks are pretty obvious. Longsword +5 to hit, 2d8 if it's one-handed, +3 or 2d10 if you're doing two-handed. Javelin, I'm just going to skip over because it's just like every other javelin attack. But the Ilnival's command is a recharge ability, which if you're not familiar with, the creature does get it at the start of combat, and then if they use it, every turn at the start, they roll a d6, and for this, it's recharge 4 to 6, meaning if you roll a 4 or 5 or 6, it recharges, and they can reuse the ability. This ability is they can choose up to 3 allied orcs within 120 feet that can hear it, and each of those orcs can use the reaction to make a weapon attack. So I like that because it is making other orcs a bigger threat, but also really adds to that tactical feel for them.
One thing to note is any orc that can be very dangerous when combined with not the rabble of half challenge ratings. So I think that's one of those things that could
120 feet.
120 feet
That's-
times 3, 4 to 6 recharge, that could get out of hand really quick if you don't take care of this guy.
And I did actually use that, and I had the war chief was still up, and he was one of the orcs selected. So yeah, that's a very good point, is you want to choose whoever's going to do the most damage on that one, not just the minions.
Right. Yeah, this is a good one to kind of pepper in with other orcs, obviously to add a little tactical stuff and
right. I think
tricky.
if you just throw this one in like as it's like a tougher orc, so it's going to be just a one-on-one combat or whatever, you're not really going to notice much of a difference, to be honest, compared to any kind of like an Orog, for example. It's pretty similar to one of their stat blocks.
Right.
But then, once you see it kind of barking out orders and commanding people to move over there, whatever, attack, the spellcaster, that's where it becomes a little bit more interesting. And you can really, get somebody surrounded and then they get, beat into one round and they're like, oh, that really sucked. It's like, yeah, but now it's the Orc Blade of the Neville's turn, and you're about to get 3 more attacks that you weren't expecting.
Right.
So it can be a very good way to surround and overwhelm a player very quickly.
Right. Next up, we have the Orc Claw of Luthik. Luthik is Grimsh's wife, and that's the god in the pantheon that's about procreation of the orcs to make sure they actually have children and the children are cared for and they grow up. The Claw of Luthik is usually back in they're generally not going out in the battle. They're kind of like den mothers. They stay back deep within the tribe's home and care for the whelplings and all that sort of stuff. They're still pretty potent though, and their art's really cool because they have like crazy long claws. It's saying Luthik often is presented as a bear, like a cave bear. So they will grow their nails out and paint them black to look like bear claws. So you just have these like big, beefy female orcs with terrible claws.
It's kind of hard to notice, but is this like the first female orc art I've seen in this edition? I don't know.
I can recall.
Like, I looked at it for a good few seconds. I'm like, all right, those are probably boobs. Interesting.
Yeah, as far as I can tell. But, I mean, I guess I don't really ask the orcs.
Yeah, we usually get around to killing them. Which actually brings me the question, when would you fight this thing?
If you're raiding their...
Yeah. If
Raiding their breeding quarters.
More importantly, if you're going to, I guess, I want to say exterminate an orc tribe, honestly, or you piss them off and you are in their territory. It wouldn't be the frontline fighters by any means. It's going to be the you've made it this far and the tribe has taken notice.
Right. And they are primarily responsible for fortifying and maintaining a stronghold. They're also healers too.
Right.
So they could definitely come up. Yeah, they're probably not going to be like out in the field raiding towns. But yeah, if you go to an orc stronghold, they'll be there. So the challenge rating 2, 14 armor class, 45 hit points, pretty standard stat array, 14, 15, 16, strength, dex, con, 15 wisdom, which is actually pretty high. Skills in medicine, survival, and intimidation. They have aggressive just like everything else. And then they do have their 5th level spellcasters with a save DC of 12 and +4 to hit.
Which still isn't like too amazing.
No.
What I do find interesting is that's higher than the Eye of Grumsh
Yeah.
as like a spellcasting ability. So a little bit weird.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah. They have spells like Bane, Cure Wounds, Guiding Bolts, Bestow Curse, Great Food and Water. I mean, a lot of it's out of combat. Augury, Warding Bond.
Warding Bond is actually... That one's kind of interesting. I think.
That one fits the flavor really well for like a den mother.
So yeah, so Warding Bond, I don't think that's one that a PC is going to basically ever cast.
I don't actually know it.
It's pretty infrequent, but that gives +1 AC +1 to a target's AC and all of their saving throws, and gives them resistance to all damage. But any damage they take, you take as well. So from a PC perspective, again, I don't really ever see that being a thing, just because it just doesn't make sense. You're not going to like, oh, let's split the damage. But
split or
it's really splitting it because you give them resistance and then you take that damage as well.
Oh, okay.
So resistance to all.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So you take 10 damage normally, split it to 5. Now you're taking 5, and yes. But I really like it for the idea of a den mother. I mean, that's extremely fitting, where they're going to make sure that theirs are protected, even if it means taking some of the hits. I was actually kind of thinking that our life domain cleric, it kind of fits into her character. I wonder if that's a cleric spell. I'm assuming
yes, it is. That's actually kind of the reason it doesn't come up a lot. Is you never are thinking in your head, boy, I wish the cleric was taking more damage.
Right. It'd be nice if you could just like link 2 people where it's like, the fighter and the
Such a dick
barbarian.
move. Like, you too, that'll work.
What I do like about them, though, is for their multi-attack, they get 2 claw attacks normally, but if they're at fewer than half hit points, they get 4 claw attacks. And they're not weak ones either. It's not like 1d4. It's +4 to hit, reach of 5, 1d8 +2 slashing damage. So that goes 2d8 +2 slashing damage, or +4 normally. But under half HP, 4d8 +8 slashing damage. That's pretty intense.
Yeah, I like that of how it's less than half and they get their attacks kind of become like frenzied. There's more of them. That's not something you see too often.
I really like that concept too. I wish it was used a little bit more.
Right.
Overall, like the entire step block is just perfectly putting the flavor into mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I'd say it's also a little bit surprising that it's only a challenge rating 2. I think this is one that you wouldn't want only one of these in a fight, only because they only have 14 AC and 45 HP. They're going to get ripped through pretty quickly there. But if you have 2 or 3 of them thrown in, or even maybe a fight specifically against these ones as you are going through an orc lair, then I could see this being pretty interesting.
Right. And it's also then supplement the orcs that are defending, like the Orogs or something, because they could heal them.
Right. That's a good point too. And This also could be used as maybe even potentially a non-combat encounter where they are specifically like defending the whelplings as you go through a orc stronghold. And, that kind of brings up then the instance of, do we just let them go? Because all they care about is protecting the whelplings here. Or is your party going to kill the protector and then the orc children?
It's a great way to punish your party if they've been watching too much Goblin Slayer.
Yeah, because they're probably going to think, oh, this will be, an easy-ish fight. No, it's going to be pretty hard.
You're ripped in half.
I wonder if that comes up as often in other people's games as it does ours.
Goblin Slayer or
not
murdering
Goblin
the orc
Slayer,
babies?
More the murdering monster babies. And that's a strong word to put for the orcs. It's not fair. But, murdering something that you have accepted as evil, but as it's a child. It's like...
I think that's like a very, very common, and really low-hanging
it
moral
should be.
dilemma.
I would assume, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, how do I make my players feel bad? It's like, oh, they're evil, but they're children. There's no right answer here.
I don't know. It seems like you guys have decided on a right answer because they usually just get...
Yeah, why? I don't even... You've got a tabaxi who hates orcs. And our elf is just like, oh, it's fine. You need to beat her up more.
What do you mean? I can't.
No,
It's literally impossible.
You have to get her on the anti-orc train.
I'm not using that in my world.
Oh, okay.
It's not like a necessary thing to bring over that elves and orcs hate each other. That's a lot of specific Forgotten Realms lore that I'd have to adapt.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're bringing in gods that don't exist in your world.
Right.
Just to make that happen.
Right. For nothing, no benefit really.
Right.
They have their own thing going on. So, those ones are cool. Next up is the Orc Hand of Yurtus. Yurtrus?
Do the thing, Will.
Orc Hand of your truce.
Your truce.
Thank you, Matt Mercer.
Did you guys know we got him for the show?
We just put him in the corner. We're like, Matt, can you please pronounce these monster names? We're so confused.
He has to hit the button, too. He doesn't remember.
I said 300s of these in an hour. All right, so these are the priests of orcs. They oversee the line between life and death, and they also wear elf skin as gloves. It's just
the god is like an abomination of pestilence and boils and shit, but the god's hands are perfect and pristine and just ivory, pure white. So they wear these gloves to try and represent that. That's what that's about.
right. Okay, that makes sense. Still creepy.
Yes. Oh, for sure.
Super creepy. They are challenge rating 2, armor class 12, HP 30. I'm basically going to skip over the stats because that's... Just read them yourself if you care. Honestly, they're a spellcaster, 4th level, DC at 12, plus 4 to attack. They don't really stand out too much to me.
No.
Beyond the fact that they have Touch of the White Hand, which does 2d8 necrotic damage, which will be interesting and different after fighting a bunch of different orcs.
Right.
But their spellcasting is nothing crazy. They get Bane, which a bunch of other orcs have gotten. Detect Magic, which won't come up. Inflict Wounds is pretty good.
Yeah.
But with only +4 to hit, it might not happen, to be honest.
Right.
But they'll try, and I think that's enough. Blindness and Deafness is really good. So I could see them kind of just being on the outskirts of things. They have Silence as well, so they really can shut down spell casting.
Yeah.
And maybe that's they're really where they fit into all of this, is that if you have spellcasters who are just bullying these orcs, these are the things to come in and just shut that down. Silence has no save, but Blindness and Deafness do. Still gonna ruin a spellcaster's day.
Right.
So what's the deal with these guys not talking?
Do they not talk?
Language
follows-
is common orc, understands but can't speak.
As befits followers of a god who doesn't speak, hands of... Oh, they don't have tongues.
Oh, sick.
Hands of your truce remove their tongues to emulate their deity, for a reason similar to why an Eye of Groomsh puts out one of its eyes.
Oh, okay.
I feel like that's a real raw deal, though, because the Eye of Groomsh, it's like, oh, I still got another eye.
Until he doesn't.
okay, yeah, until he doesn't. But these guys just take out the tongue right away.
I mean, these are the creepy.
Oh, I'm not
orcs
saying it's
anyways.
not
I mean,
fitting.
they're probably like into it.
Actually, the fact that they cast silence is pretty funny.
Yeah,
But do any of those spells have a verbal component?
it requires no verbal components to cast its spells.
Damn it. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, no, I like it. This is great.
That's
flavor.
it's at least flavorful.
Yeah.
So again, is that one going to be the crazy fight your party's been looking for? No, but throw it in with a couple of other things, and you're having a much more difficult fight.
Yeah, and also you're gonna.
monsters.
I think most players aren't aware of all these different types of special orcs, so they might go into thinking, "All right, this is just gonna be straightforward orc fight," and then wait, that one's like doing necrotic damage and inflicting wounds, and I now have Bane cast on me, and that one's curing, or what the hell's
And
going on?
oh my god, what's running towards me? That thing is covered in boils and looking like it's about to explode. Which brings us to the orc nurtured one of your truce. So this thing is absolutely disgusting. Basically, the Yortrus, the hand of Yortruses, will take in sick orcs or find them with disease and just make the disease progress to a point where they accept the orc's not going to live. They don't care, but they want to use it as basically a bioweapon. So this thing is very, very weak, and there's a reason for that. Armor class of 9, HP of 30, challenge rating 1/2. It, of course, has aggressive, so it can sprint a solid 60 feet and then dash to, I believe it would be 90 feet in a turn. But it has, we'll save this for the end, but claws, of course, it can do some claw damage, 1d4 plus 2, and then 1d4 necrotic damage. It's something. And then a corrupted vengeance. The orc reduces itself to 0 HP, triggering its corrupted carrier trait. Interesting. I don't think I can think of any other monster that has a ability to reduce itself to 0 HP.
Electrode.
Is that a monster? Is that a pocket monster?
That's
Will?
a pocket monster.
Okay. So corrupted carrier. When the orc is reduced to 0 HP, it explodes, and any creature within 10 feet of it must make a DC 13 con saving throw. On a failed save, the creature takes 4d6 poison damage and becomes poisoned. On a success, the creature takes half as much damage and isn't poisoned. A creature poisoned by this effect can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on a success. While poisoned, the creature cannot regain HP. So this is one that's going to be really good to bring in either early on in a fight, really, or just, I can think of a million ways to use this thing. So first thing is just how they use it, which is usually at the start of attacks against other cities or tribes or whatever. They send in these things to just explode as close as possible and spread disease within the enemy. So that is a great way to do it, where your party's, again, going through this or going through really anything. It doesn't have to be through the orc lair like some of these other ones. And just one of these disgusting orcs just looking like it's about to burst is just charging towards the party. And that's going to be a little confusing. And if they're a bit distracted, they might not have the time to kill it before it runs 90 feet towards them in 6 seconds. The other way that I'm thinking you could use it is if it's like more near the end of a fight and your party's starting to get pretty low on health. If you send this thing in and everyone's expecting to be able to heal back up if somebody goes down, that's going to cause some problems. Just sprint in there, explode. Now everybody's poisoned and dead.
Right.
That's a very good chance of a TPK there if you use that thing correctly.
Right, yeah, since you can't regain hit points if you're poisoned in this way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or we briefly touched on it last episode when we were talking about the god in more detail, but homebrewing this a little bit so it's not poison, but attach a specific disease to it that infects your party. That's not just shrugged off by passing a save.
Mm-hmm.
Just to add that extra element to it. Now this kind of long-term effect, or knowing how important it is to take these things out.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to not give your players an opportunity to do that. And I always think that's kind of a mistake. Like getting every single person in the Dragon's Breath, it's tempting.
Right.
But it's not necessarily... You shouldn't abuse your advantage as the all-knowing DM. So I think the interesting thing is you can blow this up in an orc camp.
Right.
So that would be an interesting strategy for your players once they learn what this thing does. It's
Oh
like,
man.
we're going to go find the pit of nurtured ones and blow them up. Because, I mean, the orcs are still going to get sick from that. You know, there's a reason they sequester them and turn them into bombs.
Right.
So that's also like these are the flaming barrels of D&D
Right.
in an orc camp.
I like the idea of using this as a random encounter. Totally separate from any other bigger orc plots. Maybe it leads into that. I don't know. But literally just your party is walking along a dirt road and they just see a boiled, disgusting looking thing just charging towards them. And like before they even know it, the thing's just right in their face and then just explodes and covers them in this. And it's just like, what do we do now? And then, start to realize that one or two of your people is poisoned, has some disease like you mentioned that's outside of this poison that takes a little bit more to cure. Could be just kind of interesting.
Yeah, or a cool introduction to an area and like a mini arc in a campaign where there's this plague going around.
Yep.
This thing stumbles out of the wood kind of confused and runs up to you and explodes and nothing immediately happens to you. Not sure that was weird. Then you go on and like you're finding some diseased animals in a village, which is now there's no one left. There's some corpses on the ground. This orc encampment where they're at war with themselves and trying to like fight off who's diseased and who's not. And it's kind of setting that initial stage.
Definitely.
And then you need to wonder, it's like, okay, did that thing just give it to us?
Yeah.
Whatever this is.
Right. And I really like that. I think at that point, it doesn't even need to be an orc. You can just steal this stat block for literally anything else. It's like a cooler form of like a zombie plague, basically.
Yeah.
But it's an explodey one.
I was thinking just a really one of those bad DM moments where they decide that zombies operate like movie zombies. So that anybody who takes damage from a zombie is like instantly dead and becomes a zombie. It's like, what? That's great flavor. It's like, no, it's not.
All right. So yeah, that one is super cool. The nurtured one of your truce.
Next, the Orc Red Fang of Shargas. Come on, Will.
Orc Red Fang of Shargas.
Shargas.
From now on, can we say please, Matt?
Please, Matt.
So Shargas is the orc deity of deep darkness and sneakiness. These are the ones that has the assassins and kind of pull strings behind the scenes. The followers of Shargas are kind of looked down upon because orcs are more about facing things head on and overcoming things with their might and ferocity, but they're kind of kept around because of the necessity. The Orc Red Fang of Shargas is what they're particularly high up, right? Yeah, they perform assassinations, stealthy raids, and other covert operation on the tribe's behalf.
The orc assassins.
Yes, and they also have giant bats.
And they have giant bats.
Yeah. These ones are challenge rating 3, armor class 15, 52 hit points, stealth plus 5, so they're going to be sneaky. They're kind of like rogue orcs. They have cunning action, exactly how it works for a rogue, whereas a bonus action, dash, disengage, or hide. Hands of Shargas are basically their version of sneak attack. The orc deals an extra 2 extra dice of damage when it hits a target with weapon attack.
Slayer is just the assassin ability ripped. In the first round of combat, the orc has advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn yet. If the orc hits a creature that round who was surprised, the hit is automatically a critical hit.
Right,
That's
and
literally the assassin ability.
Yeah, and then the Shargas' sight, where they could see in magical darkness.
Oh my god.
Which is really
I
nice.
skipped over that.
Yeah.
Because they can cast darkness without any components. So, Will, have you heard of casting darkness and then being able to see in it and then destroying
sounds
people?
like a viable strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to investigate a little more.
So their actions, they multi-attack. The make 2 scimitar or dart attacks. Scimitar, 3d6 plus 3 slashing per hit. So it's actually even better than a sneak attack because it's not once per turn.
Mm-hmm.
So
it also doesn't need the setup of sneak attack.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so like their scimitar, if they both hit, it's 66 plus 6 damage, which is lots, plus 5 to hit. Their dart is 3d4 plus 3 piercing with a range. And then they have the Fila of Shargas, recharges after short or long rest.
I think it's a veil.
Veil. Yeah, they say veal.
The lamb of Shargas.
Actually, the lamb of Shargas kind of fits.
Yeah.
The
Anyways.
veal does not.
No.
The pork loin of Shargas. The Veil of Shargrass, thank you. Yeah, they get to cast darkness fighting components.
Yeah. So they can cast darkness, just do whatever they need in the darkness. It's going to be a bad time for whoever's in there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This is one that could be a solo fight.
Yes.
Because, and it's not going to be, absolutely killer by any means, but if your party is just keeping watch throughout the night, they've been causing problems for some orcs, or maybe they just got a little too close to the orc encampment. Out of nowhere, they fail their perception roll because this thing's being stealthy. Then it's complete and total darkness, and this guy just comes in with his scimitar and just obliterates that person.
Right.
It could be really, really fun.
Yeah.
This is also a great way to add if you are doing some kind of a little bit derivative. Oh, protect the prince from the orcs.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is easy. We're just going to lock ourselves in somewhere. The orcs are just going to batter down the door and we're going to shoot them from the arrow slots. It's like, wait a second. No, you got an assassin now.
Right. Who has a giant bat? That's not in the stat block.
It's not. That actually kind of disappointed me. I was hoping for something.
You just
around
mount them
that.
on a giant bat. I'm pretty sure they're giant bat stat blocks.
Oh, okay.
I think.
I think so too. I looked
Either
this
way,
up recently.
It's not that hard to put them on something that has a flying speed.
Right.
And its art's really cool, where it's clearly like a castle tower, and it is on a giant bat, which has hung itself over the window, and it has a scimitar about to launch itself in to do exactly what you just suggested.
Yeah, so it definitely works on a protection mission.
Yeah.
And, if you don't want it to be related to orcs in any way, this can just be an orc assassin who's for hire from any other group that you want it to be from.
Right.
It's a really cool assassin stat block.
It is.
That you could use there.
So, giant bat for the record, 22 hit points, 13 AC, 60-foot fly. This is not exactly a heavy hitter. Challenge rate 1/4, but complete blind sight, as bats are wont to do. So they can use that darkness if they
and
need
then
to.
60-foot fly speed. I assume it's large.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think the idea is that the bat's going to be doing too much of the legwork here. It's the getaway. It's the thing that helps you swoop in at night.
It actually would make a really good getaway. It's a little bit weird, like creating a sphere of darkness to fly away on, to hide, but it'd work fine.
Yeah.
You just cast it on your saddle or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And then he escapes, never getting caught. Mystery never solved.
That'd be pretty cool. Especially because, oh my gosh, if it doesn't go well for the party, in the scenario you set up, Will, it's going to be complete and total darkness. Your party's like, what the heck's going on? This guy comes in, takes whoever the heck he needed to take or kill, whatever, and then just leaves before they even see what happened. They don't know who did it. They don't know what's going on. That'll be definitely some scary thoughts for them. Just like, what happened? We got totally outplayed, which normally doesn't happen.
I like it. I like the flavor.
Me too.
Mm-hmm. All the flavors great.
No, they did a
wonderful
great
ones,
job creating like a real war party out of this simple stat block that is the orc. You've got your captains and you've got your support. You've got just like this crazy, well-defined hierarchy of orcs to throw at your party.
For sure. And then the last one, Tanaruk.
Matt?
All right, Matt. It's going to be the woman this time that does it.
Let's find out.
Tanaruk.
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 Yeah, I would not
like
have
it.
gotten that.
No.
That's good. That's good.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Matt.
We can get in trouble for this too.
I don't think we can.
It's worth it.
We're not really, it doesn't matter. I think we're crediting them just fine.
D&D Beyond has a little pronunciation thing for the monsters, and Matt Mercer or a couple other people will read them. That's what we're doing.
Yep.
Anyways, yeah, Tanaruk.
Tanaruk.
Yes, this is when demonic corruption takes hold of an orc's tribe or leadership, which it's usually the demon lord of Baphomet, which we're not really going to the demon lords now, but that's the bestial one, if I remember correctly. They'll corrupt unborn orcs, and instead of a baby orc being born, a Tanaruk is born, which are even savage compared to orcs. Like, orcs look at a Tanaruk and think, whoa, you are unruly and too savage for us. You need to chill out. And usually does not go well. They are stronger than all of the other orcs. They hit like a truck. They're pretty scary things. No one could really take advantage of them. What I find interesting, though, is Baphomet will gladly share with evil humans and others of that like of how to actually create Tanaruks so they could try and get them to bolster their numbers. But it also goes on to say it usually does not work out for that human's favor because it really takes someone extremely powerful to actually control them.
Right, right.
These are challenge rating 5, which does officially make them the highest challenge rating on the stat blocks. The other next highest is 4, which are most of the ones in Volos here. 95 hit points, 14 armor class. 18 strength, 20 con, 9 in all the regular stats and the mental stats, 13 in dex.
Little disappointed there's no saving throws to this one.
Yeah.
I feel like a strength would, or con even, both of those would be very fitting.
Yeah. It is officially a fiend. It's not a humanoid orc. So it does have damage resistance to fire and poison. Dark vision, passive perception. Yeah, speaks abyssal when that comes up. It has aggressive, just like all the other orcs. Magic resistance, so it has advantage on saving throws against spells and other magical effects.
That alone bumps it from a 4 to a 5 challenge rating.
For sure. Then its actions. Multi-attack makes 2 attacks, one with its bite and one with its greatsword. Its bite is +7 to hit, 1d8 +4 piercing damage. And its greatsword is +7 to hit, 2d6 +4 piercing damage. Slashing damage.
So it's really, damage-wise, not as much as some of the other
I said it
ones.
hits like a truck, but it's actually not. That was an exaggeration.
Like a, Ford truck. Like,
I was going to say, no.
Like a Ranger, you know?
No, not even a truck. It hits like a
quarter
practical like sedan.
Oh, okay.
One of the
Like a
new ones
Toyota
with the
Camry.
safety
It hits like a Toyota Camry. It's like, it'll get the job done.
Yeah.
But,
It's like it's trying to meet some safety standards.
yeah.
That's what I think when I walk into a toy dealership. Will this Camry get the job done for what? Like hitting people with it.
Whoa. Specifically adventurers. They're not really people.
Armored, athletic guys.
And it does have its unbridled fury reaction where, so in response to being hit by a melee attack, it can make one melee attack with advantage against the attacker.
The advantage part definitely makes that pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I don't know of a good reason a party's going to fight this thing. Because most of the time they don't even want these things to get born at all. Like a war chief finds out that a Tanaruk gets born, and most of the time they're going to be like, yeah, let's kill that thing. That's a really bad idea to just leave that laying around. But even if it does get powerful, it's like it's going to cause a lot more problems for the orcs than it does for, I guess, the party, as I'm gathering.
Right, and it's not so powerful that like a orc war tribe will not be able to overcome it.
Yeah, it specifically says sometimes the Tanaruk will stage a coup, and it usually fails, but then it just gets killed and kills a bunch of orcs, which,
right.
I don't know, it's like kind of weird. But there are the occasional times where it does seize leadership of a tribe, and then it says reckless war is the course it inevitably chooses. Now, that's where things can get interesting, because as the DM, just because it says it doesn't usually happen, I mean, that means that you can make it happen.
Right.
I'm the DM, I said it does. But then you get a orc tribe who normally is pretty reserved, and they raid when they need to, and people have just kind of accepted it, and it's not like a big enough problem. But now their furiosity's just increased, and this thing is at the head of it all.
Right.
So could be interesting.
Yeah, but it is actually kind of boring stat block.
Did you hype it up too much, Kevin?
Yeah, I did.
So
Let's type it back down.
let's tie it back into, though, with it being the chieftain, it would have these other stat blocks to bolster it. So it's going to have the here you go, the nurtured one of your truce, those explodey guys.
Yeah.
So this thing's resistant to poison.
Okay.
So the Tanaruk is just going to be surrounded by these things. And it's going to use them as the flaming barrels, but it's resistant to that damage.
Right.
It's not immune, so it might take some, but it's also probably going to pass its save, because I believe it's Constitution saving throw of 13.
So it is +5
And
to
it's,
that.
yeah, so, and then it's going to take 2d6, and then that resistant to that as well.
Right.
So I could very well see this thing just like standing there and basically just like grabbing one as the party comes close and just like stabbing into it, and just like boom,
Right.
causing it to explode, or whatever else. Also having the magic users around to bolster it. And it would be a very different dynamic where the war chief, you'd expect them to be kind of working with the rest of the group. This thing would be almost throwing other orcs at the party as if it's like just does not care about their lives, which most of the time no orcs do. That's the whole point of them. But this even more so, where it's just like everything at the party to keep itself safe and then running in and cleaning up the mess.
Right.
You've always got the situation where these things are demonic incursions in their own way. They don't really happen naturally. If the demon lords were like, you know what, I'm kind of bored. I'm going to create a bunch of Tanarooks, or I'm going to create an entire warband of Tanarooks or something like that. They can pop up. The only issue is they are kind of boring, and you can't really toss the other stat blocks on them to enhance them.
Right. It doesn't make sense to like mix this with the Luthic Den Mother in any way, where you're like, oh, I'll give him bestow curse. No, you're not.
Right. I mean, the only thing I could see if he is the war chief of the orc tribe, the one where he could give advantage to the other orcs.
Yeah, definitely.
That
around
or
him, but that's it. But like, even the extra damage, it's like it's a Grumsh.
I could see Grim
thing.
saying, no, that's
No.
not an orc.
Yeah, no, yeah, it goes in,
For sure.
and in the lore, the gods of the orc pantheon hate these things. They see them as an abomination.
And they are.
Yeah, they are. So that wraps up all of the orcs and volos. As usual, volos, it just add a lot of depth to the kind of the vanilla cannon fodder creatures that most people just kind of use interchangeably.
Yeah, I feel like we really slept on Volos for a good amount of time. And anytime somebody asks, like, oh, what's your favorite book? It's always like, well, Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, because it added just like a ton of these high-level monsters and really good flavor behind them. But Volos, every time I read one of these like bigger portions, it's like just blows my mind at how underutilized some of these creatures are.
For sure.
I know we've covered hags, orcs, goblins, which I mean, that alone was like 10 episodes.
The Goblinoid series. Yeah.
I just mean like all of what we just discussed.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's all of them are great. What are the other ones?
Kobolds.
Kobolds we discussed as well. Is there any left that we have?
Giants.
Oh yeah, giants.
That's the one we keep avoiding because there's so many of them.
Yeah, people want us to talk about giants. We've gotten a couple
I
requests.
know. There's just so many.
We've talked about beholders as well.
Yeah.
We talked about gnolls. We've actually made it through every one of these besides mind flayers, Yuan-Ti, and giants.
Okay.
So we're most of the way through Volos.
I say, Mind Flayers and Yuan-Ti would be good ones. And then Giants is going to have to be kind of broken up over multiple
We're just
years.
going to keep kicking that can down the road.
Oh, man. Oh, well.
Because, I mean, like, you got Hill Giants, Stone Giants, Fire Giants,
Frost giants.
Cloud Giants, and Storm Giants.
Yeah.
So there's 6. And each one of those has, like, a good handful of stat blocks and things in it.
Besides hill giants.
Hill Giants
Yeah.
has one pumpkin-eating monstrosity. We have literally all the minis, too. So.
Just like 20 pumpkins. Anyways, we'll get to giants at some point. I know people want us to talk about giants. We don't want to talk about giants. But I do, because I ran all of Storm King's Thunder, and it'll be fun to kind of reminisce on how boring those fights were in comparison to how they would be now.
Oh, man, I don't know. They're still kind of dull.
You hate giants. But this isn't the giant episode, so we'll talk about it in Monsters and Multi-Classes big giant episode, where we're going to have one episode where we just talk about giants.
That would be a way to just knock it out.
There you go. See?
Like, no multi-class or anything, just... All right, a consideration.
There you
no
go.
promises.
It's going to be 6 hours long. All right. So I guess then we don't have a good segue for this. Unlike everything else, we have great segues. But let's turn to a question from... how long of one do we want?
Not super long. We're at an hour 40.
Not super long. We've got one from Brain Gamer 12. Why are my players so chaotic?
I don't know, man.
Because you haven't broken them.
This is going to be quick. So why are my players so chaotic? Probably because you haven't introduced real consequences to their actions. I have had issues with players being a little bit too chaotic and wanting to do whatever they want and thinking that it would be funny. If that's not the type of game you're trying to play, then establish that first. And that should be very upfront with your group. And then if they do something stupid, punish them. In game, of course, not out of game.
Right.
But
You killed the guards, so I slashed your tires. I don't know why you're mad.
To give my example of this, so my players were playing Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and I had established this was going to be a relatively serious campaign because that's the type of games I like to run. They were walking through the streets and a robbery was occurring, and one of them looked to the other and they said, "We should do a counter robbery." Which was them walking in and saying that they were robbing the place while other people were robbing it. I guess it's from Pulp Fiction, maybe? I don't remember. Maybe another Tarantino movie. I don't remember.
Definitely not Pulp Fiction.
Okay. Only seen it once. So they ended up just escalating the situation, obviously, turned into a fight in the middle of this clothing shop, accidentally set the clothing shop on fire because they started casting fire spells in a clothing shop, and barely saved the shopkeep, ended up killing 2 of the thugs, and then guards showed up and they're like, "Hey, you burned down a shop and you killed 2 people." And they're like, no, we were stopping a robbery. So that's where we stopped the session and basically like dragged them to the cells and had like a whole thing play out, put a monetary fine on them because, it was in self-defense, so I guess there was a reason for them to kill him. But anyways, to some people who are listening, they're probably like, "Wow, that sounds absolutely awful. They tried to do a fun counter robbery. You should have let that happen." And that's fine if that's the type of game you're going to play, but your players are going to be chaotic. Somewhat good, somewhat bad. It's just about the tone you're trying to set.
Right.
And it was actually really good for the party. We still laugh about it. We're still friends. Just barely, but we're friends. But they were like, "Oh yeah, I guess we did kind of go off the rails there," and then everything was fine after that.
Yeah, just setting expectations, showing that yes, there are real world quote consequences.
Right.
Well, that's that's the important
do,
distinction. When you this is pretty common with new players, less so with experienced players. When you say you can do anything, you aren't lying. But you can do anything in the real world, but we don't do a lot of things because we have, decades of learning, there are consequences. So you do have to almost train these people from birth, like over time with punishment. And you can do it violently in this world. Right. You can kill them. You can kill people for doing things that are dumb. That's the beauty of D&D.
Yeah.
And I think it's also worth noting, sometimes you'll see this kind of thing, and some people just don't have fun playing D&D in a way that most people would enjoy.
Right.
So, if you have a chaos player, maybe they just aren't having fun, and this is their way of doing it. Maybe D&D is not for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Or that table.
Yeah, or that table. Maybe they need to find the chaos table.
Yeah.
Evil campaigns are great.
Yeah, and it's fine. It's where I struggle, though. So you have a table of mainly serious people, and then the one chaotic player who's not okay to play that way, but keeps trying to force it on things. It just kind of ruins it.
Right.
And then ultimately the party rejects them, and I've even heard about where the party will kill them, or how we did that once. We ended up fighting. This was a long time ago. I don't know if you were.
I'm trying to remember it, but I can't right now.
It's we ended up hunting this character down and bringing them to justice where they got hanged.
That was not me. That was before me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they came back with another character pulling the same bullshit. And it was just like, why are you playing with us? You're not having fun.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of setting expectations and all that. Obviously, in this specific person's case, we don't know why they're chaotic. We're just talking in generalities here.
Of course.
And if you're asking in a way where you don't want them to be, that's definitely a place to look. Give them consequences.
Honestly, I assume that they were mostly just joking.
Probably.
But it does bring up a good question.
A good talking point, yeah.
So, chaotic players are interesting. And it takes a real socially adept person to actually play chaos without annoying your entire party. It's knowing when is it okay to go outside of the rails to that extent, outside of the normal acceptance. Otherwise, again, if you piss them off too much, then you're either going to get 3 people who are fed up with you, or the other way around, which is turning everything chaotic, and then the DM sitting there like, this isn't what I wanted to play at all.
Right.
So, yeah. I know you like. I asked it so bluntly at first, so you guys would just like shrug your shoulders, like, "What do you mean? Why is your player so chaotic?" But I had something
We don't know
planned.
your table.
Cool.
All right.
All right. So that is our show for today.
Yeah.
Kevin, take it away.
He even rhymed it,
Spot.
man.
Yeah. That was like too good. I had to ruin it with
Oh.
a pause. I would know. I was actually going to say though, if
See
you,
you next time. You too.
I was going to say, if there anything, any questions you want to ask us, any topics like that you want us to dive into at all, hit us up on Twitter or Reddit. You can find us by Googling or at monsters_multi or r/monsters in multiclass.
Send us a smoke signal.
Yeah.
Whatever really
Yeah.
floats your boat. It's not our problem.
Yeah. All right. And now we do that smooth bit.
I don't remember what I said.
Seriously?
That was our episode today. Kevin, take it away.
Yes, that was it.
That was our episode today. Kevin, take it away.
Thanks for listening. I feel like I needed to rhyme it.
No, it's okay. I don't think you
You
need
can't
to.
rhyme two things, man.
If you rhyme 3 in a row, it just sounds gross.
Next time on Monsters and Multiclass.
Join us as we discuss the Cleric Druid multiclass and then the Draco Lich. From probably the Monster Manual or Boarding Games or one of those books, one of those monster books. You know, you all got them. We all got the monster books. The monster book.
He did the book.
The monster book. The monster book. I can't think of anything else.
Graveyard Smash.
And it was a dungeon smash. You
It was a
idiot.
dungeon smash. All right. Well, that's where we'll end the episode.